Within the warm-up, not only are we warming up, but we're training specific skills and concepts that are gonna build into what we do in class. Where we start in warm-up is with bouncing. And with bouncing, the thing we're looking to practice is keeping our feet together. If my feet are together, I'm protecting my ankles, my knees, and my hoo-haws. With my feet together, it creates one strong ankle unit as opposed to two weaker ankle units. If my feet are together, my knees bend in a more natural, safe way as opposed to here. And then again, if my feet are together, if I'm jumping to something, I only have to spot one landing. Whereas if my feet are apart, I have to spot two separate landings, but also if they're off, I can split the obstacle. What I like to tell the kids is to pretend that I put a $100 bill in between their feet and they have to squeeze it and hold on to it the whole time. It's an active squeezing together of the feet to keep them together. The other aspect of bouncing is being in our ankles, being nice and quiet, nice and soft, starting to get used to absorbing and being light-footed. The other aspect of the bouncing is trying to be nice and light, nice and soft. The quieter you are, the better you are absorbing, but you're also starting to practice that plyometric aspect of taking that force of whatever you're putting into the ground, having it rebound back into you so you can use it. We don't want to be heavy-footed, we don't want to be loud, we don't want to be flat-footed. We're on the balls of our feet, nice and quiet, nice and soft. Within the warm-up, we're also building on things. So we started with the bouncing, then we moved to squatting. With squatting, our feet are together, because again, when we're landing, our feet are together, and when we land, we squat. So when we practice our squats, we want to practice our squats with our feet together. Again, pressing those feet together like I'm holding on to that $100 bill. I'm gonna roll up onto the balls of my feet, the part of my feet that I was just bouncing on. Then I'm gonna bend in my ankles, my knees, and my hips as I act like I'm catching a ball. My knees are gonna be about 2 fist distances apart. We don't wanna think about opening our knees to get down, but we also don't wanna keep our knees together as we go down. With the squat, we're gonna sit our butts back, have our chest up, again, acting like we're catching a ball. We don't want our hands down here. We don't wanna be looking down here. If I'm here and I'm acting like I'm catching a ball, I'm engaging all of this musculature here, which makes me stronger for when I'm trying to stick a landing, land on something and not fall off of it. Within the squats that we do, we want to pattern all that. So again, feet together, rolling up on the balls of my feet, ankles, knees, and hips, acting like I'm catching a ball, knees 2 fist distances apart. After that, we combine the bouncing with the squatting. So what we're looking to do is to actively go into a squat, but keep those feet together. So I'm starting with my feet together, I'm bouncing, and then I go into my squat. What we want to avoid, and what we see a lot of with the kids, is that they're bouncing and then they squat and they open their feet. They're bouncing and then they squat. Again, actively keeping those feet together. If I start with my feet together, it's a lot easier to end with them together. Whereas if I start with them apart, it's harder for me to get them together. We want to practice this so much that we don't have to think about finding that position. When I'm jumping, whether it's on the ground or an obstacle, landing in that position is going to keep my joints safe and it's much stronger. I don't want to be jumping at height and the first thing I'm thinking is keep my feet together. If I have to be thinking about that, then I probably shouldn't be jumping at height. From there, after we've started to warm up our ankles and our knees, we go into a bigger jump. We're going to utilize that feet together and that squat to go into what's called our tuck jump. Now, with our tuck jump, we're tucking our knees to our chest. We don't want to tuck our heels to our butt. We call that jumping for joy. Again, it's more knees to chest. As soon as I get as high as I can, I straighten my legs back out, I reach for the ground, I grab the ground, and then I pull it to my butt cheeks. With the squatting, not only feet together, bending in ankles, knees, and hips, but I want to make sure I'm finding that Goldilocks zone. Again, that not too far, not far enough kind of a thing. So I don't want to squat all the way down here. If I'm all the way down here, I can't run out of this. I have to get back to here before I can move. I also want to make sure I'm lowering far enough. If I only go this far, I'm not doing a good job absorbing, but also from here I can't get a very powerful jump. So we're working on finding that kind of Goldilocks perfect spot where I can move out of it, but also do a good job absorbing my weight. I'm always talking about with obstacles that you need to control the obstacle and not let the obstacle control you. When you're landing, the ground is that obstacle. So I'm not falling to the ground, I'm actually landing on it. I'm reaching out, grabbing it, and pulling it to me actively, as opposed to falling. Pulling that ground to me in that active squat. Not too low, not low enough. With the tuck jump, again, tucking the knees to the chest, if I'm jumping to something, I want to be able to see my feet. If I'm tucking here, I can't see my feet. If I'm here, I can see my feet that I can then extend and land on something. So as I'm jumping, I'm actively reaching my feet out to grab the obstacle that I'm jumping to, and then absorbing in. Same thing we do here, jumping, getting as high as we can, extending our feet out to grab the ground, and then pulling it to us. The quieter your landing is, the softer and better absorbing you did. The louder your landings are, the harder it is on your joints. So thinking about being quiet causes you to do a better landing. From there, we move into what's called our frog position. Again, our feet are gonna be together. From here, we're gonna squat down, put our palms on the ground in between our knees. We're not here, we're in between our knees. Anytime we have our hands on the ground, we wanna make sure we're utilizing our palms. This is dispersing the force, protecting our hands. What we like to tell the kids is act like you're giving a high five to the ground. You don't give high fives like that. So we don't wanna have fingertips, we don't wanna have our thumbs back, palms on the ground. From here, we're gonna slide into a table. So we slide into this table position where my knees are bent at a 90-degree angle, my hands are directly out in front of me. I don't wanna slide out so far that I have a saggy butt or that I'm in a push-up position, and I don't wanna have my butt nice and high. From here, I should be able to push the ground away, stand up and run out of it. I'm not able to do that from this position here. Again, with the frog, feet together, squatting down, putting those palms down, and then sliding to that good table. Now, if we're outside on concrete, we don't want to slide our hands. So in order to get to that table position, we're going to actually scoop. So when we scoop, you scoop down and forward. Again, I'm trying to maintain my momentum that way. So as I do this, I scoop my hands down and forward. I'm gonna start to lower in my legs. I scoop my hand down and forward, get a nice, good, quiet landing on the ground. Like I tell the kids, you're not plopping. Not only is my momentum going that way, but I'm taking a lot of force into my arms, into my hands. It's louder, which means I'm not doing as good of a job absorbing. Again, any kind of a landing, whether it's on my feet or scooping to that table with my hands, I want it to be nice and quiet, signifying that I'm doing a good job of lowering and absorbing. Again, lowering, scooping down, forward, nice and quiet. As soon as my hands hit the ground, they do not slide any further. From there, we're gonna combine everything. The tuck jump, scoop to table. Looking to keep my feet together the whole time, tuck my knees, extend my feet to get a good quiet squatted landing, and then scooping to a good quiet table landing on my hands. Starting to combine all the things that we've done thus far. Looking for 2 quiet landings, 1 on the feet, 1 on the hands. Tuck jump, scoop to table, keeping your feet together, tucking your knees, getting a good quiet landing on your feet, scooping to a good quiet landing on your hands. From there, we're gonna move into what's called a catwalk. Catwalk is running on your hands at a medium pace in that table position we were just practicing. One thing that the catwalk is good for is that because it's involving this cross crawl patterning, helps to integrate a new skill into your muscle memory. The other aspect of the catwalk that we're looking to do is to not have a wiggly butt. If your knees are out to the side or your feet are out to the side, it causes your butt to wiggle. You want to pretend like you're marching. If you're marching, your feet and knees stay nice and close together. So as I do my catwalk, I want to try to not have that wiggly butt and keep my feet and knees nice and close together, running on my hands at a medium pace. Not too fast, not too slow. We only want to use our hands and feet anytime utilizing obstacles. We don't want to get in the habit, even though we're on a soft floor, of being out of control or being too tired and falling to our elbows or our knees. Hands and feet always only on obstacles. My feet and knees are directly behind me. That's gonna be more efficient because I'm trying to go that way. And if they're directly behind me, they're pushing me that way. So not only is it efficient, but it's faster. If my feet are going to the side and my butt's wiggling, there's a lot of other movement going on. We wanna make sure that we're doing as little movement as possible to get us where we wanna go. Next, we move into the ground Kong. With the ground Kong, it's gonna be 2 hands, 2 feet. Our feet are gonna be back to being together. We move our hands, then we move our feet. We move both of our hands at the same time, then we move both of our feet at the same time. We don't move our hands and feet together. We move hands, then feet. With the ground Kong, we don't wanna have a saggy butt. A saggy butt's a low butt, which is a slow butt. It also causes me to rock back and forth. So with the ground Kong, I wanna have a high butt. Again, it's feet together, and I go hands, feet, hands, feet, hands, feet. Keeping my butt nice and high. It's a controlled face plant. It's kind of like running. When you run, it's a controlled fall. I start to fall, and then I put my feet out. Same thing here, I'm controlling my fall. So instead of going into a face plant, I put my hands out. So my butt's nice and high, I fall, hands, feet, hands, feet, hands, feet. If you are falling, it doesn't take as much effort. So if you can control your fall, you're being more efficient. As opposed to the low saggy butt where I'm rocking back and forth. Saggy butt, saggy butt, saggy butt. With the low saggy butt, it's almost like I'm having to restart every time. Also, if I start to use the ground Kong for a Kong up, where I'm going on top of something, the higher my butt is, the higher my feet are, which is easier to land on top. If I have a saggy butt, I risk hitting my shins. Now we're gonna combine everything. We're gonna take each individual movement that we've done, piece them together, and get used to maintaining our momentum. So we're gonna start with the tuck jump, get a nice good landing, and scoop into 2 ground Kongs. Looking to keep my feet together the whole time, tuck my knees, get a good quiet landing on my feet, scooping to that table position, but now instead of going to the table, we're gonna go into 2 ground Kongs and maintain that momentum. We stop, we stand up, and we do it all again. If I take a big landing and stick it, I'm taking that whole impact into my body. As I start to move with my landing, I'm dispersing it over the area that I'm moving along. So this tuck jump, scoop to 2 ground Kongs is getting us used to dispersing that force from coming into our body, as well as maintaining our momentum to move quickly out of something. We're now gonna move into our precision jump. Precision jump is just like a tuck jump. I'm still keeping my feet together, I'm still tucking my knees, and I'm still sticking my landing. Now I'm jumping for distance, I'm jumping forward. So it's gonna be a little bit harder to control that stick. The other aspect we're adding is loading our arms behind us before we do our next jump. So we're gonna jump, stick, and reload. Again, looking to keep our feet together the whole time, stick and control our landing, and then reload our arms before our next jump. As I tell the kids, if I were to put a $100 bill in between your feet, you should be able to hold on to it all the way to the other side of the floor. So my feet stay together the whole time. So again, feet together, jump, stick, reload. Jump, stick, reload. What we find is that a lot of the kids forget to reload their arms. So when they go to jump, their arms are here, and as they jump, they throw their arms backwards, which is counterproductive and not helping them to jump further. With the precision jump, we're looking to give the precise amount of power to land precisely where we want to. With the precision jump, there's a specific obstacle that we're jumping towards. So we have to give it the precise amount of power to be able to land precisely where we want to. If I jump too far, that doesn't do me any good. If I don't jump far enough, it doesn't do me any good. So not only are we training keeping our feet together and sticking our landing, but we're starting to have an understanding of how far we can each jump individually. Knowing how far you can jump is gonna keep you safer. With that precision jump, I'm gonna be jumping to something specifically. So I have to give it the precise amount of power. If I don't give it enough power, that doesn't work. And if I give it too much power, that doesn't work. So even if I can jump further, it doesn't do me any good. One, I have to know whether or not I can jump that far. Two, I have to know how much power to give it so that I can exactly jump and stick my landing. If I have too much power but I land on it and don't stick it and step forward, that's not good. Or if I don't have enough and I have to fall backwards. So the precision jump is starting to practice keeping my feet together and having an understanding of how far I can jump, and then sticking that landing and making sure that I'm not falling off of an obstacle if I'm at height. Now we're gonna move into the cat balance. Cat balance is utilizing that catwalk on a small obstacle. This is usually meant to be done at height. When I'm feeling more comfortable getting my hands on something, I'll feel more safe. With the cat balance, you're gonna catwalk into it, cat balance across, and then catwalk out of it. We're utilizing the same thing on the rail as we are here on the ground before and after. The cat balance is a good way to start to incorporate your core and really having to fight to stay on an obstacle. From there, we're gonna go into our side Kongs. Since it's a side Kong, we're gonna start to the side of it. We put these white lines down for them to know where to stand. So I'm gonna walk up, stand on the white line. From there, I'm gonna scoop to my table, but instead of putting my hands on the ground in front of me, I'm gonna put them a little bit to the side on the rail. So everything's the same. I scoop, hands on, then I jump my feet over one time, and then I go to my ground Kongs on the way out. You make that one smooth motion to get used to maintaining your momentum, starting on the white line, scooping to hands on, feet over, ground Kong out. The side Kong is a very common movement that we use to get down and up on top of things, and this is starting to integrate that patterning so that when we utilize it later at height, the kids already know how to do it. Now we're gonna go back to our ground Kongs. Ground Kongs are gonna help us to get comfortable putting our weight into our hands, and again, start to build that strength of putting weight into our arms and hands. The ground Kong transitions into a lot of other skills, so it's a great foundation to build, and all you need is the ground. Anytime you hear Kong, you're gonna think hands, then feet. Hands, then feet. If I move my hands, then I move my feet. If I move my feet, then I move my hands. So whether it's a ground Kong, side Kong, Kong up, Kong vault, Kong down, it's always hands, then feet. The first one we do with the obstacle is just practicing keeping that nice high butt and going over something to our hands as opposed to jumping over it. So I'm gonna ground Kong into it, dive to my hands over it to a dive ground Kong, and then ground Kong out. Hands, feet, hands, feet, hands, feet, hands, feet. Looking to have that nice high butt. If I'm doing a saggy butt, I risk hitting the obstacle. I also want to avoid doing what I might more naturally do, which is to jump over it. Nothing wrong with jumping, that's just not what we're doing. So we don't want to go hands, feet, jump over it, and then go back to our hands, feet. Getting comfortable diving over something to our hands, putting weight into our hands. The next concept we're gonna go over is the Goldilocks zone. Goldilocks zone is making sure that we're in that perfect position in relation to an obstacle so that we can use it safely and efficiently. If I'm too far away from an obstacle, I can't use it, but if I'm too close to the obstacle, I also can't use it. Do a perfect table onto the rail. If I'm too close and I go into a perfect table, my hands aren't gonna be on the rail. Same thing if I'm too far away. Or if I'm too close and I put my hands on the rail, not only is this not a good table, but now I didn't leave any space to move my feet. Again, if I use my hands, then I use my feet. I'm gonna walk up, find that Goldilocks zone, start to get comfortable figuring out where I need to be in relation to that obstacle. From there, I'm gonna scoop to my hands on the rail. Since I moved my hands, the next thing I move is my feet. I'm gonna move my feet next to the rail. Since I move my feet, I'm gonna move my hands, and I'm gonna do the one we just did, which was to dive to our hands and go into our ground Kong. We want to make that one smooth motion. Momentum is your friend. It makes it easier. So finding my Goldilocks zone, scooping to my hands on feet close, dive to my hands. The last one we're gonna do is the exact same, except now we're gonna put our feet up on the rail as well. This is called a Kong up. So I'm still finding my Goldilocks zone. Momentum is really important for this one because if I stop, it's gonna make it harder. So again, finding my Goldilocks zone, scooping to my hands on, hands off, feet off. This one is a little bit harder, but again, if you break it down to its easiest form, it's hands, feet, hand, feet. This is why we do it every warm-up, so that it becomes second nature, and so that when we move from obstacles that aren't on the ground, they'll be safer.